Have you ever received a package that knew your name before anyone else did? What if opening that package meant someone else would never see another sunrise? Tonight I am sharing a true nightmare that the people of Black Hollow never speak about. If you hear a bicycle bell before this story ends, do not look outside. Nathan Reed had lived in Black Hollow his entire life. It was a quiet village hidden between endless hills and thick forests in North Yorkshire. Most nights the streets were empty long before darkness settled across the valley. People locked every door, pulled every curtain closed, and refused to answer anyone after 9 at night. Nathan never believed the old stories. He laughed whenever the older villagers whispered about the cursed road called Raven's Lane. According to them, something still traveled that road after dark. Not a person, not an animal, something much worse. Caleb Foster walked beside Nathan carrying an old lantern that swayed with every step. The wind was freezing even though it was the middle of summer. The trees around them bent as if something invisible was pushing against them. Caleb looked nervous. "We should hurry. It is almost 9. Nathan smiled without slowing down. "You still believe those stories?" Caleb did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward the empty road disappearing into the darkness. "My grandfather warned me about this place. He said nobody should stay here after the last church bell." Nathan laughed again. "Your grandfather believed every ghost story in the village." Suddenly every sound disappeared. The wind stopped. The insects stopped. Even the leaves became completely still. Nathan frowned. That silence felt wrong, almost unnatural. Then somewhere far behind them, a single bicycle bell echoed through the darkness. The sound was soft, slow, metallic. Both men stopped walking. Caleb slowly turned around. "Did you hear that?" Nathan nodded. "Probably someone riding home." But there were no lights, no voices, no moving shadows, only another bicycle bell, this time much closer. Caleb grabbed Nathan's arm. "We need to leave now." Nathan pulled his hand away. "Relax. It is only someone delivering something." A thick white fog suddenly rolled across Raven's Lane, covering the ground around their feet. The lantern light became weaker. The road ahead slowly disappeared inside the mist. Another bell rang, closer than before. Nathan felt cold air brush across the back of his neck. It felt almost like someone had whispered directly into his ear. "Do not turn around." Nathan spun around anyway. Nothing. Only fog. Only darkness. Only empty road. Then a black bicycle slowly emerged from the mist. It moved without making a single sound. No chain noise. No tire noise. Only the slow ringing of the bell. The rider wore a long black raincoat soaked with water. A white hat covered most of his face. Behind the bicycle was an old wooden delivery box tied with cracked leather straps. The bicycle stopped only a few feet away from Nathan. Neither man spoke. The stranger slowly reached inside his coat and unfolded a faded piece of paper. Without looking at either of them, he spoke in a rough, lifeless voice. "Nathan Reed, a delivery has finally found you." Nathan felt every hair on his body stand upright. He had never seen this man before. He had never ordered anything. Yet somehow the stranger knew his full name. Caleb stepped back until the lantern nearly slipped from his shaking hands. "Leave it. Do not answer him." The rider ignored Caleb completely. He slowly opened the old wooden delivery box fixed behind the bicycle. Inside were dozens of dark parcels. Every one of them was wrapped in black paper and tied with faded red string. They all looked old, much older than they should have been. The stranger reached deep inside the box. His hand disappeared farther than the box should have allowed, almost as if the inside had no end. After a few seconds, he pulled out one small package. Unlike the others, this one was wrapped in deep crimson paper. Across the front was written only one name: Nathan Reed. No address, no sender, no stamp, no delivery label, nothing except his name. Nathan stared at it in silence. "How do you know me?" The stranger slowly lifted his head. The shadow beneath his hat hid his eyes. "Some deliveries wait years before finding the right owner. Tonight your waiting ends." Caleb grabbed Nathan's shoulder. "We are leaving, right now." Nathan hesitated. Part of him wanted to walk away, but another strange feeling kept pulling his eyes back toward the parcel. It felt familiar, as if he had seen it before in a forgotten dream. Without thinking, he reached forward. The moment his fingers touched the package, a freezing pain shot through his arm. His breath turned white in the cold air. Somewhere behind him, a woman whispered so softly that only he could hear, "Do not accept it." Nathan jerked his hand back. His heart pounded against his chest. "Did you hear that?" Caleb looked confused. "Hear what?" Nathan looked around. The road was empty. Only the stranger remained perfectly still. He forced himself to laugh. Probably the wind. Trying to ignore the strange feeling, Nathan picked up the parcel. The instant he lifted it, the bicycle bell rang by itself. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound echoed across the entire valley. Birds suddenly exploded from the trees as if something had frightened every creature in the forest. The stranger finally smiled. It was not a human smile. It stretched too wide, too slowly, almost as though his face had forgotten how people smiled. Nathan swallowed hard. "How much do I owe you?" The rider answered without hesitation. "You will pay when the next name appears." Nathan frowned. "What does that mean?" The stranger folded the old paper and placed it back inside his coat. "You will understand before sunrise." He turned the bicycle around. The wheels rolled through the mud, but they left no tracks behind. Within seconds the thick fog swallowed him completely. Only the distant ringing of the bicycle bell remained. Then even that disappeared. Nathan and Caleb stood frozen in complete silence. Neither of them noticed that the crimson parcel had already begun to feel warm inside Nathan's hands, as if something hidden within it had just awakened. Nathan and Caleb walked toward Black Hollow without speaking. The village was only a few minutes away, but the road felt longer than ever before. Nathan kept glancing behind him. Every few steps he felt certain someone was following them. Whenever he turned around, the road was empty. The fog had disappeared. The bicycle rider was gone. Yet the strange feeling refused to leave. Caleb finally broke the silence. "Throw it away." Nathan looked down at the crimson parcel. It felt heavier now, almost as if something inside had shifted. "It is probably some kind of joke." Caleb stopped walking. "Nothing about tonight is a joke. My grandfather warned me about the hollow courier. He said anyone who accepts a delivery after the last church bell never lives the same life again." Nathan forced a smile. "Stories cannot hurt people." Caleb looked directly into his eyes. "Sometimes people create stories because they survived something worse." Neither of them noticed another figure standing between the trees watching them. A pair of pale eyes followed every step they took. The moment Nathan looked toward the forest, the figure disappeared. A few minutes later they reached the first houses of Black Hollow. Every window was locked. Every curtain was closed. The village looked abandoned. Even the street lamps flickered as if they were struggling to stay alive. Nathan reached his home near the edge of the village. An old stone cottage surrounded by twisted oak trees. The front door opened before he could knock. Evelyn Reed stood there holding a small oil lamp. Her face relaxed when she saw Nathan. Then her eyes fell on the crimson parcel. The color drained from her face. "Where did you get that?" Nathan stepped inside. "Someone delivered it on Raven's Lane." Evelyn almost dropped the lamp. "Number. Take it outside. Right now." Nathan looked confused. "It is only a package." Evelyn slowly shook her head. "Your grandfather brought home one exactly like that many years ago. After that night nothing in this family was ever the same." Nathan had never heard that story before. "Why did nobody tell me?" "Because we wanted the curse to die with him." A cold breeze suddenly rushed through the house. Every candle went out at once. The room fell into darkness. From somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked, slowly, as if someone had just taken a careful step. Nathan looked toward the staircase. "We are the only ones home," Evelyn whispered. "We were." Another slow footstep echoed through the house, then another. Something was walking across the second floor. And whatever it was moving toward the stairs. Nathan slowly picked up the oil lamp and walked toward the staircase. Every step above him stopped at the exact same moment. The silence became unbearable. Evelyn grabbed his arm. "Do not go upstairs." Nathan pulled away. "If someone is inside this house, I need to know." He climbed the first step, then the second. The old wood groaned beneath his feet. Halfway up the stairs, a freezing wind rushed past him. It came from above. But every window on the second floor was closed. Nathan reached the hallway. Every bedroom door was shut. Everything looked completely normal. Then, a soft knocking echoed from inside his own room. 3 slow knocks. Nathan walked toward the door. The knocking stopped. He pushed the door open. The room was empty. Nothing had moved. Nothing looked unusual. Except for one thing. The crimson parcel. It was no longer in his hands. It was resting neatly on the center of his bed. Nathan felt his heartbeat race. He was certain he had carried it upstairs. He had never placed it there. Evelyn slowly entered behind him. Her face turned pale again. "Do not touch it." Nathan ignored her warning. He walked closer. The red string around the parcel slowly untied itself, without anyone touching it. The paper wrapping folded open. A smaller black box appeared inside. It was covered with strange carved symbols. They looked ancient, older than the house itself. Across the top someone had carved a single sentence. "The first name has accepted. The next must be chosen." Nathan stared at the words. They had not been there before. A loud bicycle bell suddenly rang outside the house. Once, twice, 3 times. Nathan rushed to the bedroom window. Rain had started falling again. Standing beside the old stone gate was the same black bicycle. The hollow courier stood perfectly still. His face remained hidden beneath the wide hat. Slowly he raised one pale finger, not toward Nathan, toward the black box resting on the bed. Then in a voice that somehow reached through the storm, he spoke, "Do not open it. Until midnight." The courier slowly smiled. Lightning flashed across the sky. For less than a second Nathan saw his face clearly. His skin looked burned. His mouth was split far beyond a normal smile. And where his eyes should have been, there were only endless shadows. The next flash of lightning came. The bicycle, the rider, everything had vanished. Only muddy, rain-soaked ground remained. Nathan turned back toward the bed. The black box had moved. It was no longer lying flat. It was now standing upright, as if someone inside it was trying to get out. Nathan could not move. His eyes remained fixed on the black box. It slowly rocked from side to side. Not fast, not violently, almost like something inside was breathing. Evelyn stepped backward until her shoulders touched the wall. "Do not look at it any longer." Nathan whispered, "What is inside?" Evelyn closed her eyes. "I prayed I would never see that box again." The room suddenly became colder. Their breath turned white in the air. Somewhere inside the house, a clock began ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Each sound grew louder than the last. Nathan looked toward the hallway. The old grandfather clock downstairs had stopped working years ago. Yet now it was ticking again. Exactly 1 minute at a time. Tick, tick, tick. The black box suddenly became still. Complete silence filled the room. Then, scratch. A slow scratching sound came from inside the box. Someone, or something, was dragging sharp nails across the wooden lid. Nathan felt every muscle freeze. The scratching stopped. A tiny folded piece of black paper slowly pushed itself through a narrow crack in the lid. It landed softly on the bed. Nathan reached for it before Evelyn could stop him. His hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. Only 3 words were written inside. "Find the next." Nothing else. No explanation. No signature. The lights inside the house began flickering. The walls groaned. The windows rattled without any wind. From downstairs came another sound. The front door slowly opened by itself. Creak, creak, creak. Nathan and Evelyn stared toward the hallway. Heavy footsteps entered the house, one after another, but nobody appeared. The footsteps stopped directly beneath the bedroom. Then came the bicycle bell. Not outside, inside the house. One clear metallic ring echoed from the hallway below. Nathan slowly walked toward the bedroom door. He looked down the staircase. The front door stood wide open. Rain blew inside, covering the wooden floor with muddy footprints. Only one set. They began at the doorway, crossed the living room, reached the staircase, and ended right outside Nathan's bedroom door. There were no footprints leading away. Whatever had climbed the stairs was now standing on the other side of the bedroom door, waiting in complete silence. Nathan and Evelyn did not breathe. They stared at the bedroom door. The muddy footprints stopped only inches away. Then came a slow knock. 1, 2, 3. The door handle began turning by itself. Very slowly, Nathan grabbed the nearest chair and pushed it against the door. Evelyn whispered a prayer under her breath. The handle stopped moving. For a few seconds everything became silent again. Then a rough voice came from the other side. "Nathan Reed, your delivery is incomplete." Nathan felt his blood run cold. It was the same voice, the hollow courier, but this time it sounded much closer, almost as if his mouth was pressed against the wood. Nathan forced himself to speak. "Go away." No answer came. Instead, the bicycle bell rang once, directly outside the bedroom. The chair suddenly slid backward across the floor on its own. The bedroom door slowly opened, only a few inches. No one stood outside. The hallway was empty, yet freezing air poured into the room. Nathan looked down. A small envelope had been pushed through the gap beneath the door. The envelope was black, sealed with dark red wax. Across the front was written, "For the new keeper." Nathan picked it up carefully. The wax seal broke the moment his fingers touched it. Inside was another folded note. This one was much older. The paper smelled damp, like it had been buried underground for decades. Nathan unfolded it. His face turned pale. The handwriting matched the words on the black box. "If you refuse the duty, Black Hollow will fall before sunrise. If you accept, another soul must take your place." Nathan looked at Evelyn. "There has to be another way." Before she could answer, a deafening scream echoed from somewhere outside. It came from the center of the village. Then another scream, and another. Church bells suddenly began ringing wildly, not in rhythm, but all at once, as if someone was pulling every rope with desperate force. Nathan ran to the bedroom window. Villagers carrying lanterns were rushing toward the old village square. Some were shouting, some were crying. In the middle of the square, something tall and motionless stood beneath the ancient oak tree. Even from that distance, Nathan recognized it immediately. A black bicycle, and beside it, the hollow courier, waiting for him. Nathan ran downstairs with the black box in his hands. Evelyn followed behind him. The moment they stepped outside, a wave of cold air passed through the entire village. Every lantern flame turned blue. The villagers stopped moving. All eyes turned toward Nathan. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. They already knew what he was carrying. Caleb pushed through the crowd and reached Nathan. What happened? Why is everyone here? Nathan looked toward the old oak tree. The hollow courier stood beneath its branches. The rain fell around him, but not a single drop touched his body. Caleb stared in horror. That is him, the one from the stories. An old man stepped forward from the crowd. His name was Cedric Ashcroft. For decades he had protected the secrets of Black Hollow. He looked at the black box in Nathan's hands. The curse has returned. Nathan looked confused. What curse? Cedric took a deep breath. 30 years ago another person received that parcel. A man named Alistair Graves. He was a postman who delivered letters across this village. One night he found a package with his own name on it. Just like you. Nathan looked at the hollow courier. You mean he became that thing? Cedric nodded slowly. The parcel was never a gift. It was a chain. Every 30 years it chooses someone new. The person who accepts it becomes the next keeper. And the previous keeper becomes the courier. Nathan looked down at the box. Then how do I stop it? Cedric looked toward the abandoned hills beyond the village. There is only one place where the curse can end. The old crypt beneath St. Bridget Cemetery. The original delivery was made there. And the final delivery must return there before sunrise. A sudden laugh echoed through the square. The hollow courier slowly stepped forward. The villagers moved back in fear. His voice carried through the storm. You cannot break what has existed for centuries. Nathan held the black box tightly. I will find a way. The courier tilted his head, just like the others. They all said the same thing. The ground beneath them began shaking. The old oak tree branches twisted unnaturally. From the darkness behind the tree, several shadowy figures appeared. Lost souls from previous deliveries. Their faces were hidden, but their voices whispered together. The next keeper has arrived. Nathan realized something terrifying. The entire village was trapped in the curse. And before sunrise, he had to reach the old crypt, or Black Hollow would become another forgotten name in the darkness forever. Nathan looked at the dark figures surrounding the village square. Their empty voices echoed through the cold night. The villagers stepped back in fear. Nobody wanted to get close to the shadows. Cedric held his lantern higher. We have very little time. The crypt must be reached before the first light appears. Nathan looked at the black box in his hands. He knew there was no turning back now. Caleb stepped beside him. If you are going there, I am coming with you. Nathan looked surprised. You should stay here. Caleb shook his head. I brought you to that road tonight. I will not let you face this alone. Evelyn walked toward them. Her eyes were filled with fear, but her voice remained strong. Your grandfather faced this curse alone. Do not make the same mistake. Nathan nodded. Together they walked toward St. Bridget Cemetery. Cedric followed with 3 villagers carrying old lanterns. The path leading to the cemetery was covered by thick fog. The trees around them twisted in strange shapes. Every few seconds they heard something moving between the branches, but whenever they looked, nothing was there. After several minutes, a familiar sound came from behind them, a bicycle bell. Everyone stopped. Slowly they turned around. At the end of the fog-covered path, the hollow courier was standing with his black bicycle. He was not walking. The bicycle floated a few inches above the ground. Cedric whispered, "Do not look into his eyes." But Nathan noticed something different. The courier was not following them. He was waiting, as if he knew where they were going. They continued toward the cemetery. The old iron gates of St. Bridget Cemetery opened by themselves. Inside were hundreds of forgotten graves covered with weeds. At the center stood a broken stone chapel. The entrance was sealed with an ancient metal door. Cedric placed his hand on the door. This is where the first delivery ended, and where this one must end too. Suddenly the black box in Nathan's hand started shaking violently. The symbols carved on it began glowing faintly. A whisper came from inside. Not one voice, but many, all the previous keepers, begging to be released. Nathan looked at the sealed door, then at his friends. He knew whatever was waiting beneath the chapel was the reason the curse survived for so many years. Cedric slowly unlocked the door. A wave of freezing air rushed out from below. The darkness inside seemed endless. Then from deep beneath the ground, a woman whispered, "The final delivery has arrived," and she sounded like she had been waiting for Nathan for a very long time. Nathan stepped closer to the entrance of the underground crypt. The darkness below felt different from normal darkness. It felt alive. The old stone stairs disappeared into the ground. Nobody could see where they ended. Cedric raised his lantern and started walking down. Everyone followed behind him. The air became colder with every step. The walls were covered with strange symbols, the same symbols that were carved on the black box. Caleb touched one of them. These were not made by people from this village. Cedric looked ahead. They were made by the first person who accepted the delivery, a long time ago. At the bottom of the stairs they reached a massive underground chamber. In the center stood an old wooden table. On top of it was another box, much larger than the one Nathan carried. The room was filled with hundreds of old parcels. Some were damaged, some were covered in dust, and some still looked completely new. Nathan whispered, "How many people received this curse?" Cedric looked away. "Everyone who disappeared from Black Hollow over the last century. Their names are here." Suddenly the chamber filled with whispers. The old parcels began moving, one by one. They fell from the shelves and landed on the stone floor. Then every parcel opened at the same time. Dark smoke escaped from inside. Hundreds of shadows rose into the air. The Lost Keepers. Their voices filled the crypt. "Help us." And this, Nathan stepped back. The black box and his hands became heavier, almost impossible to hold. Then the sound of a bicycle bell echoed from the entrance. Everyone turned around. The Hollow Courier stood at the top of the stairs. For the first time, he walked inside the crypt. His boots touched the stone floor. The sound echoed through the chamber. Cedric whispered, "He has never entered here before." The courier slowly removed his old hat, revealing his burned face completely. Nathan stared in shock. "You were trapped too." The courier smiled. "I was never trapped. I was chosen." Nathan tightened his grip on the black box. "Then why hurt innocent people?" The courier looked toward the hundreds of old parcels. "Because every curse needs a keeper, and every keeper needs a replacement." The walls began shaking. The old wooden table cracked. The larger box in the center of the room slowly opened. Inside was something that made everyone freeze. A faded photograph. It showed the first person who ever received the cursed delivery, and standing beside him was Nathan's own grandfather. Nathan felt his heart stop. His family was connected to the curse from the beginning. The courier stepped closer. "Now you finally understand. This was never a random delivery. It was always meant to return to your bloodline." Nathan stared at the old photograph lying inside the ancient box. His hands started shaking. The person standing beside the first cursed delivery was someone he knew. His grandfather. The same man who had warned Evelyn about the parcel years ago. Nathan looked at Cedric. "Why did my family hide this from me?" Cedric remained silent for a moment. "Because your grandfather was not a victim. He was the last person who tried to end the curse." Nathan looked confused. "Then why did he fail?" Cedric pointed toward the black box. "Because the curse does not end by destroying the parcel. It ends when someone chooses to sacrifice themselves." A cold silence filled the chamber. Caleb looked at Nathan. "Number, there has to be another way." The Hollow Courier slowly walked closer. For decades people searched for another answer. Every keeper believed they could escape, but the curse always finds its way back. Suddenly the walls of the crypt began showing strange images, like memories appearing from the stone itself. Nathan saw his grandfather standing in the same chamber many years ago, holding the same black box. A younger Alistair Graves stood in front of him. The first keeper. His grandfather was saying something, but the sound was unclear. Then the memory changed. Nathan saw his grandfather placing the box on the stone table and walking away. The curse did not choose him. It chose someone else. The image disappeared. Nathan looked shocked. "He was trying to protect me." Cedric nodded. "Your grandfather discovered the truth. The curse only survives because people accept fear. He believed someone with enough courage could break the cycle." The Hollow Courier suddenly laughed. "Courage. That is what they all called it before they disappeared." The chamber shook violently. The shadows around them began moving faster. The Lost Keepers reached toward Nathan. Their voices became louder. "Do not become the next one. End it." Nathan looked at the black box, then at the ancient table. He realized something. The box was not controlling the curse. The people who carried it were. He slowly placed the box on the stone table. The courier stopped smiling. "What are you doing?" Nathan looked directly at him. "I am not taking your place." The temperature dropped instantly. The entire crypt went dark, and for the first time, the Hollow Courier looked afraid. The entire crypt trembled as Nathan stood in front of the ancient table. The black box remained completely still, but the shadows around it started moving like living creatures. The Hollow Courier stepped back. For the first time in hundreds of years, fear appeared on his burned face. "You do not understand what you are doing." Nathan looked at him. "I understand enough. This curse survived because everyone believed they had no choice." The courier's voice became louder. "You think you are different from the others." Every keeper said the same words before losing everything. The old parcels around the chamber started opening. Dark smoke filled the air. The lost souls screamed as they were pulled toward Nathan. Caleb and Cedric tried to move closer, but an invisible force pushed them back. Nathan stood alone inside the circle of shadows. Then he noticed something carved beneath the black box. A hidden message. Not a warning. A name. The name of the first keeper. Alistair Graves. Nathan looked at the courier. You were never the master of this curse. You were its prisoner. The courier froze. The shadows around him started shaking. Nathan continued. The first keeper was not chosen. He was tricked. The curse made him believe he needed to pass it on. But every new keeper only gave it more power. The chamber became silent. The courier slowly lowered his head. For a moment he looked less like a monster, and more like a broken man. I waited for someone to understand. His voice was almost a whisper. Nathan stepped closer. Then help me end it. The courier looked toward the black box. I cannot. The curse took everything from me. My name, my life, my soul. Suddenly the black box opened by itself. A powerful wave of dark energy exploded through the crypt. The walls cracked. The lost soul screamed. A shadow began rising from the box, much darker than anything Nathan had seen before. Cedric stared in horror. That is the true curse. The thing controlling everything. The shadow formed into a tall figure with empty eyes. A voice echoed through the chamber. Another keeper has arrived. Nathan realized the Hollow Courier was never the final enemy. Something much older had been waiting beneath Black Hollow, waiting for someone brave enough to challenge it. The shadow reached toward Nathan, and the entire crypt began collapsing around them. The entire crypt shook violently. Large pieces of stone fell from the ceiling. Dust filled the air as Nathan stood facing the dark figure that had risen from the black box. The shadow had no real face, no real body, only a shape made from years of fear and suffering. The voice coming from it was deeper than anything Nathan had ever heard. You cannot destroy me. I have existed longer than your village, longer than your family, longer than your memories. Nathan looked at the black box lying on the stone table. Then he looked at the Hollow Courier, the one who had spent decades carrying the curse. He finally understood. The curse survived because everyone ran from it. Everyone accepted fear. Everyone believed it was unbeatable. But Nathan was done running. He grabbed the black box with both hands. The moment he touched it, every memory from every previous keeper entered his mind. Hundreds of lives, hundreds of regrets, hundreds of people who lost everything because of this curse. Nathan felt their pain, but he also felt something else. Hope. The voices of the lost keepers became clear. Do not carry us. Release us. Nathan closed his eyes, and instead of accepting the curse, he rejected it. I am not your keeper. I am your ending. A powerful light burst from the black box. The shadow screamed. The entire crypt shook as cracks spread across the walls. The Hollow Courier fell to his knees. For the first time in many years, his face looked peaceful. The dark marks covering his body slowly disappeared. Nathan watched as Alistair Graves returned to the person he once was. A tired old man. Not a monster. Not a curse. Just a lost soul. Thank you. Those were his final words, before his body turned into dust and disappeared. The shadow tried to escape, but the souls of all previous keepers surrounded it. They pulled it back into the box. The final scream echoed through the crypt. Then everything became silent. The black box cracked and turned into ash. At that exact moment, the first light of sunrise entered through the broken ceiling. The curse was finally over. When Nathan and the others returned to Black Hollow, the village felt different. The heavy darkness that had surrounded it for generations was gone. People opened their doors, children walked through the streets again, and nobody feared the sound of a bicycle bell anymore. Weeks later, the villagers rebuilt St. Bridget Cemetery. They placed a small stone memorial for everyone who had been lost to the curse. Nathan never spoke about everything that happened underground, but every year on the same rainy night, he would visit the old cemetery, not because he was afraid, but because he remembered those who never escaped. However, some people in Black Hollow still claim that during the darkest nights, when the wind moves through Raven's Lane, a faint bicycle bell can sometimes be heard in the distance, not as a warning, not as a curse, but as a reminder that some deliveries are never meant to arrive, and some darkness is never truly forgotten. So this is the story. Follow Nightmare Files for more horror and creepy stories.